Hi everybody, welcome back to Embrace the Journey with Sharon, and today my guest is Jennifer Hancock, ×2. This is her second time on the show. She wrote a book called The Bully Vaccine, and she has some great skills and tools that we can learn from to empower ourselves when it comes to the world of bullying. Unfortunately, it exists. It is out there in our world. Originally, when Jennifer was in, we spoke about the childhood bullying, which is, you know, pulling somebody's hair, calling somebody names, taunting them, teasing them, telling them, you know, they're not wearing the right clothes or things like that. This, unfortunately, is something that escalates in our world. The bullies almost become fueled over it if nobody does something about it when they're young, and it becomes a part of who they are. And what's going on in our world right now, it saddens me and Jennifer and many of you out there related to the deaths that are happening in our world related to bullying, whether it be suicides or shootings or other forms of it. So we're going to speak a little bit more in depth about the darker side of bullying, and Jennifer's going to share with us some great information. She's going to educate us on things that we can do, and I'm very much looking forward to this. So thank you again for coming back.
Well, thanks for having me back on.
Mm-hmm. So I guess where we should start is, you know, what are the different types of bullying when it gets a little bit older, and then what can we do about it?
Sure. When you type in bullying for adults, the number one thing that comes up is workplace bullying, and it's much more of a problem than we realize. And I think what happens is, as children, we figure out how we're going to deal with difficult and obnoxious people in school, and then we're surprised when we go into the workplace and these same people are in the workplace, and they're using these techniques because it's just work for them. This is how they interact with other people. Yeah. And so it's not just kids that need to learn this information. Adults need to learn it too, because whatever skills you had in school, which often involved avoiding the person, right, you cannot avoid your boss.
Yeah. Or somebody that you have to work with on a team.
On a team, yeah. You can't avoid them there either. Relationships, yeah. You know, a lot of stalking is actually a form of bullying. Yeah. You know, so relationship violence is part of this dynamic as well. Yeah. So
and the cyberbullying.
And the cyberbullying.
We use Facebook to connect with people, and
your reputation. If someone decides to destroy you, they can ruin your reputation, you know, by attacking your business. Yeah. And attacking your business's reputation. Yeah. So we do have to learn how to deal with this in a society. We have a moral obligation to learn what we need to learn so that we can tackle this in a holistic way.
Yeah. So that's why we're here today, is to learn, again, a little bit more about it and some of the steps that we can take. So if I'm in a situation where I have somebody as a teenager to adulthood, because to me, teenagers, they're at the cusp of that. They're trying to make decisions on their own, which is unfortunately one of the reasons why they don't reach out to a parent or right. a counselor or a teacher or more. But you're saying, yes, you're saying reach out. Reach out.
Well, the reason these teenagers aren't reaching out is because they've learned over time that the advice they're getting is crap. Right, so they stop asking for advice. Mm-hmm. The other thing that happens with kids is that they're more interested in learning from their peers than they are from adults, because we're so far removed from them. When you have little kids, you realize this, that they want the kid that's a year above them mm-hmm. to learn what they're doing, because they don't want to learn a bike unless they see their friend riding the bike. You know, they don't want to learn how to swim underwater until they see a friend swimming underwater. So there is a certain amount of just biological they want to learn from their peers. But if their peers don't know what they're talking about, then you end up, I hate to say it, with like a kind of a Lord of the Flies mentality, yeah. where they just kind of are feeding bad information to each other, and then that's what gets learned.
Which ties back to just what right. we were talking about as adults. If we ignored it, and we haven't learned how to express ourselves in that type of situation, and instead we kind of, you know, just turn our heads to it, and that's what we're teaching the kids.
Exactly,
okay.
Exactly.
So I'm an adult. I am somebody who did that. I am somebody who just said, well, it's not my problem. I don't have to deal with it. Teach me what I can do to change that pattern that I have so that I can empower others.
Sure. The first thing is you have to want to change yourself. I can't teach someone who's happy with who they are, because there's nothing wrong with them if they're happy, even if there is something wrong with them, if they're happy with what's going on. You have to be unhappy with how things are going to have the motivation to change. That's like the first thing. Because there's always ways you can improve. Even really together people can improve what they're doing, but they have to have a mindset to want to improve.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think, is knowing you have choices, knowing that there are better ways. A lot of times when people are in a bad spiral, they just can't see their way clear to understand that there are alternatives. When people, the number one thing that I get asked by suicidal people who come to me for help is, why not just kill myself? And they're asking that question because they can't see past the spiral that they're in.
Yeah.
And the question I always ask them to ask is, why not live despite it all? Yes, it's hard. Yes, you're in a very dark place and no one should have to live that way. Yes, I agree. But why not live despite it all? And having made that choice to live despite it all, decide not to live the way you're living now. Done. Now you're in a place where you've taken it upon yourself to change what needs to be changed and to learn what you need to learn to get better. Now, if you're suicidal, that learning is going to a professional counselor, and there's a difference between psychologists and psychiatrists. Your first step is to go to a psychologist to get help with that. If you need a psychiatrist, they will refer you to one. But often you can get help with a psychologist. Psychologists do not prescribe medicine. That's the big fear people have, is I'm going to be medicated. You go to a psychologist, they are not allowed to prescribe medicine. So you go to them and they can help you with breathing techniques. So you'd be surprised at what a good breathing technique can do for you to help, like deep breathing from your belly. When I was being stalked and I was having 2 or 3 panic attacks a day, by going to a psychologist, I was cured within 3 months. Yeah, not of the stalking, but how I was responding to the stalking.
Because your body, when you breathe from up here, it's like a quick...
It's tension.
And it gets your heartbeat going, and then that fuels almost that feeling of, I have no control, I have no control.
Right. Yeah. And I think what people need to know is there are things that happen to you that are so severe that the average person can't help you with. You know, when I was being stalked and I was dealing with that, no one around me had experienced that. So none of them could understand what it was I was going through or what it felt like and how deep I was. And, you know, you need to go to find someone who can teach you what you need to know to deal with these things. If you are not dealing with something well, you need to go to find someone who can teach you the skills you need. And often that is a psychologist.
Yeah, and actually, because I've come from a similar place, so I can speak of it for my own journey, to almost have a safe place to face your fear.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, to actually look at it and question it. Is this true? Right. You know, and if it is true, what are my options? And actually have a different perspective than when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the middle of it, of your own head, there's nobody else around, and unfortunately, because it is fear-based,
right,
that is what feeds our thoughts.
Right.
Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And it starts a vicious circle.
Absolutely. And
that
for me,
can overcome you.
For me, what really changed for me was, it turned out that what I was afraid of is that I didn't have control over what was happening, and I didn't have control over what was happening because it was another person doing it who was, you know, psychologically insane, right? Why was he doing this? He's insane. Literally, he has a mental health problem. So once I accepted that I didn't have control, and this comes back to the serenity prayer, change the things you can, accept the things you don't. As soon as I accepted I didn't have control, my fear that I didn't have control went away, and the panic attacks went away. And it was like night and day. And like you said, you have to confront the fear, and you might have to accept the reality. Because I think a lot of times when we're pushing, we're fighting, and we're in angst, and we're spiraling down, it's because we don't want to face the reality of the situation we're in. And as soon as we face the reality, however bleak that reality is, we're now in a position to deal constructively with the reality, as crappy as it is.
Yeah. I don't want this anymore. And then that gives you the opportunity to see, I want this, and start
Right.
going in that direction. Because for me, it was a self-imposed, because of drugs. But it put me in that same place where I had no control, and my brain was going in really crazy places. And when I did get to that point where, like you said, I recognized I can't do this alone. I have no control of it. I need help. So that is the big question. How can I find help, and what are my avenues?
There's several ways you can get help, and it really depends on what it is you're dealing with. If you're dealing with depression, often the first thing you want to do is go tell your doctor. It's a real relief when you go to your doctor, your primary care physician, and tell them, I'm not coping well. Refer me to a psychologist. Or what can you do to help me? Often they can be your first line of defense. If you're a child, the first person you go to is your parent. And you have to be honest with them about what it is that you're experiencing so that they can help you. If your parent's incapable of helping you, for whatever reason, because not every kid has a parent that's capable of engaging with them the way they need, you go to the school counselor. You just keep seeking until you find someone who can help you constructively, because there is help available. You don't have to have money to access it. A lot of counselors will work with you on a sliding scale or free if you really don't have the money. That was one of the fears. I helped someone who was agoraphobic. And his parents couldn't help him because they didn't understand. I said, you go to your doctor and you tell him. And within 3 months, he was out of the house and coping well, because he made a commitment to bypass his parents and to go find someone who would help him.
Yeah, it is seeking somebody that you trust too. I know for me, when I was going through my own experience, I was 19 and not living at home, and I actually went home to my parents. Now, they didn't have a clue what I was going through, but yet I came home and I said, I need help, because I was at the point of taking my hands off the steering wheel.
Right.
So, and they did what they could. At first, they tried outpatient, even though in my head I knew that I was beyond that. And then we took it and found further. And nowadays, I think they've made changes to the insurance so that even teenagers that are in their later years are covered under their parents' insurance. There are so many amazing programs out there now, but you have to seek it out. Yeah.
Your county, I can almost guarantee, almost every county in this country has some sort of mental health program that you can access. So there really is no excuse. The reason people don't seek it is because there's a stigma attached to it. And they think, if I'm not coping well, then that's my weakness.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that what they're going through is so extreme that they actually need help, that you can't be expected to know how to cope with certain things.
Yeah.
You have to be taught.
Yeah.
And bullying is one of those things you have to be taught. No one is born knowing how to handle a bully. You have to be taught it, or you have to learn it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's better if you're taught it, because it's easier on everyone.
Yeah. And I want to take a moment to, because I know Jennifer feels the same way. We are here to tell you, you are worth it.
Oh, yeah.
This world would not be the same without you in it. And you are here for a purpose, and you do have a value, and we are here to empower you to get past this period of time where it seems like the whole world is caving in on you. I get it. And tell you that I'm 48 years old now. I went through this when I was 20, and my life has been amazing ever since. Has it been up and down? Have there been obstacles? Have there been things I ran into that brought me great sadness again along the way? Yes. But you know what? I'm here for a reason, and you're here for a reason, and this book that Jennifer wrote is to help empower you to recognize that and help you find the ways to get past this moment in time. I know it seems like it may go on for a long time, but if you find the courage to empower yourself and learn and educate and seek out the help, someday you will look back and you will be sharing with other people what you have overcome. And
yeah, because I went through mine in my 30s, and people were shocked that I ended up in an abusive relationship that resulted in stalking, because I'm not the sort of person who takes crap from anybody. I'm a very strong individual, and I still got sucked into this, and I still needed help to get myself out.
They're very cunning. These people are very cunning. And I was in a situation in my 20s where I call it the Jekyll and Hyde, because on one side he was, I mean, I just felt like I was the world.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, and then on the other side was very dangerous.
Here's what's so damaging about that. You've read the book, so you understand variable versus consistent reinforcement. What these abusive people are doing is variable reinforcement. Sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're not. And that actually strengthens the victim's commitment to them.
Yeah.
And this is what's so shocking to people who haven't been through it. They don't understand that even if intellectually you're saying this is wrong, I need to go out, you are incapable of getting out. And the reason you're incapable of getting out is because you have been conditioned to very strongly and irrationally need this person that you know you shouldn't be with. And it's not about your intellectual.
Right, and it's almost like I will be able to help this person.
It's beyond that. It's an instinctual conditioned response you have to them. It's like Pavlovian's dog salivating. That's the level of thought that's going into it. Your brain is rationalizing it, but it's actually a Pavlovian response to this variable conditioning that's going on in the relationship. And that's why it's so destructive. And that's why the only way to do it is to get out of it. And you actually do need help from your friends. You have to enlist your friends and put yourself in their hands and your family to keep you away from this person, because what's happening is you are addicted to their good. And you're seeking your next fix of good, and you will do whatever it takes. It's like a drug addict. You will do what it takes to get that next fix. You need help to be restrained from that so that you can get yourself back into a normal place. But the dynamic is actually the variable conditioning response.
And removing yourself from that environment totally. I mean, that was one of the things when I got out of the drug rehab. If I had gone back into the same environment, I would not have been strong enough. I would not have been, even after everything that happened, I would not have been strong enough. I literally had to change my life.
Right.
And thank God I did.
Yeah, have you ever seen a movie with Robin Wright Penn and John Travolta and Sean Penn, She's So Beautiful?
I don't know.
It's about a woman who was in an abusive relationship, and then she gets out of it and she marries John Travolta and everything's good, but then the guy that was so horrible gets out of jail and comes back, and she actually tries to commit suicide rather than have any contact with this guy. And if you haven't been in an abusive relationship, you don't understand how rational her choice was, you know? And it seems like that's rational, but yeah, if you've been in an abusive relationship, because you know the dynamic is so strong and that you actually are not in control, because your animal instincts are all that's going on there. That we like to think we're in control of what's going on, but the reality is we're an animal, and we have easier times with some things and harder times with others. But when our instincts kick in, it doesn't matter how much you rationalize, your instincts have kicked in, period. And that's what's going on with these abusive relationships, and they're so out of control and they're so painful that people would rather commit suicide than go back, even have anything to do with these people. Once they're out.
So give me 5.
But don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. Get the help you need from a professional instead, because there's no reason to put yourself through that anymore. Really, there isn't. You can get out. You just need help. And
we are proof of it.
As strong as I am and as no nonsense as I am, if it happened to me, it can happen to anybody, and the only way you can get out is through help.
So give me 5 steps. Give me 5 steps. If I'm in that right now, I woke up today and I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm ready. I need to find my way out.
Step 1 is I want to keep living, but not like this. All right, that's step 1. Step 2 is to start developing a plan on how to get help. Go seek the help you need in a way that won't alert the abuser to what you're doing.
And if you don't find the person the first time, keep looking.
Keep looking. There's different psychologists. You will mesh with some of them. You won't mesh with others. When I was being stalked, I looked for someone who had specialty in PTSD, because I knew what was happening. I'm educated enough to know what was happening was traumatic, and I needed someone to help me with the traumatic stress that I was under. Then you need to take their advice. Oh my goodness, if you don't take their advice, you might as well not done it. And the thing then you have to keep committing to getting out. I mean, this is, I thought about writing a book called Get Out, about how to exit these sorts of relationships, because you don't decide to get out and then you're out.
It's a plan.
It's not just a plan. It's a repeated decision continuously for about 5 or 6 months that I'm going to get out and stay out, that I'm going to get out and stay out, because you will be tested. The abuser's not just going to let you go because they're as addicted to the dynamic as you were.
And you've been programmed. So you have to keep deprogramming yourself and reinforcing the new thought, the new idea, the new way.
So it's not one decision, it's a bunch of decisions, the same decision continuously, and you need to be prepared to be making those decisions continuously. And then the final thing is to know that if you do this for yourself, your life is going to be better, that there is light at the end of this rainbow, at the end of this tunnel. Excuse me, wrong metaphor. But there is light at the end of this tunnel, that you can choose to keep living. Just don't choose to live like you are, and do what you have to do to get out so that you can get out, but continue to choose that. And then you're going to be amazed when you're out. You're like, why did I ever, it's like it's a whole different me that was that person. I don't even recognize who I was at that time, because it's so foreign to who I was before and who I was after. Now, I had the benefit of having had life experience before that to know what it looked like and what I was going back to. Not everybody has that.
And if you are of the teenage years, you can't see that far ahead. You guys just don't look that far. And we're here to tell you, we've seen it, and we know that it is possible. And please reach out. Whether you reach out to somebody you know, you can reach out to one of us. We will help you to find what you need. So I again appreciate you being here, because this I hate to use the word subject. This part of our world right now is so very important. It's always been there, but I want to be a part of making a difference and changing it, and help to empower others to change it.
And I think the biggest thing as a society that we need to do is destigmatize the seeking of help. Because that's the #1 thing people need, and the #1 thing they don't do. Because they're convinced, I should be able to handle this. I should be able to handle this. I'm intelligent. I'm smart. I should be able to handle this.
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
And that's a stigma against seeking help. And you might not need psychological help, you might need psychiatric help, whatever it is. You might just need a shoulder to cry on. But accepting that you need help, you've seen all these commercials for the mental health community, right? Accepting that you need help is liberating. It really is. As soon as you let go of trying to fix this yourself, it's a liberating experience, and it changes everything, and it puts you in a position to fix it. And so I think the fear is, I need help. That means I'm not in control.
Look up the word courage.
It's actually the complete opposite.
It's a French word. Liberating. And somebody explained the word courage to me one time as, if you look at the most amazing, beautiful, wild horse, and what they did is their heart literally would leap before it's almost like their heart leaps before the rest of their body does. So let your heart leap and find the courage. And real quick, give us a little bit of info on your you have a charity for the books.
Sure. The book, The Bully Vaccine, can help. It's based on operant conditioning, which is what your psychologist will help you learn as well. It's just applied to the problem of difficult people, bullies and whatnot, and workplace bullies and adults. And if you've been stalked, it's the same dynamic that's going on. So you need to get the book, you need to learn it, share it, and pass it on. Donate it to a library, donate it to a friend who needs this information, but just get it and share this information and pass it on. The more people that know, the better off society is going to be.
And you can find that information on our website. Remember to embrace the journey, because when you do, life is amazing.